Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in, and in this video we're going to talk more about the tips and tricks that exist with high school that you or your kids can take advantage of in order to become more successful, be on top of their class, and have better chances of getting accepted to universities or basically have better grades and be at advantage. Now, this video, in compared to the previous video, I have arranged everything that we start with some of the more funny but interesting factors about high school and then gradually build ourselves into the more important factors about high school. So in order to take the full advantage of this video and these tips and tricks, please tune in until the end of this video and don't forget to like it. Alright, so let's talk about the first factor, which is bathrooms. Yes, bathrooms are important in high school for two reasons. One, they have their own regulations and they can play an important part when it comes to your son's or daughter's credit. Why? Because in the US you have these passes that your students, your kids, whoever wants to use the restroom, they have to basically utilize that. And what's the reason behind it? It's because after the bell rings and the students are in class for that little period, either it's 1 hour and 30 minutes, 20 minutes, or whatever it is, the deans and other officials of the school, they usually run around or look around the hallways and want to make sure that all the students are in classes and basically take advantage of the teachings. However, what they don't want to see is these unattended students who are trying to sneak away from classes or do something shady. They either been hiding, they're trying to get away, or whatever it is. So in order to come up with a solution for that, they usually have given these teachers a pass. Now, a pass will differ from school to school. Some schools are more strict, so they literally have a card. The teacher will put down the student's name when they want to use the restroom. They put down their name. They have a time that they are going to leave the class and a time that they're supposed to be back. This is ridiculous because it's just unreasonable for another person to determine how long you should take in order to take care of yourself, especially when it comes to those days that all of us have experienced. We have some emergency situation going in, and it can be us having diarrheas or like other stuff that I don't want to even get into. So that's one factor. Another type of pass is just basically some sort of a sign that is hanging around the class, and when you want to leave the class, you just notify the teacher, "Hi, Miss X or Mr. X, I'm using the restroom," and they're like, "Okay, Lily," or whatever, and you just grab the pass and you walk. And that thing, that is a symbol of basically that student is qualified to leave the class or be outside of the class in that period that everybody else is in their classes. And you just grab that. There's no time. You go take care of your business as they say, and then you come back. So those are the two factors, and that's the reason behind it. Now we want to talk about another important factor about restrooms. Restrooms, unfortunately, are one of those places that shady stuff can happen, and it really depends on the school that you attend and the reputation that it carries and how high achievers are the students, the grade point average, and etc. etc. Again, it really is within the school's reputation, because if your school is known to have certain things going on in the restrooms, then you want to be a little bit more vigilant. And if you're a parent listening to this video, you want to be a little bit more vigilant about when your kids are using the restroom. And it can be all sorts of things, so I'm not going to get into those. But one thing that I found out based on my experience, that one of the best times to use the restroom is actually when the class starts like maybe 10-15 minutes after, because again, all the students are supposed to be in these classes or in their classes, and the deans, they make sure that the restrooms are empty. So that potential danger that might exist in the restrooms, they don't exist anymore, because the restrooms are empty. You just go and take care of your business, and the difference is 15 minutes, you know. However, what I've experienced is that, especially during the brunch time, when that break period is much longer in compared to the breakfast period, or etc., etc., that's when the shady things happen. That's when you can smell certain stuff. That's when you find out about fights and other stuff. So those are the two factors. One, you want to make sure that you have a sign when you're leaving a class. I didn't know that. I got into trouble the first time that I wanted to use the restroom in the US, or in the high school in the US. And the second, you want to be a little bit more vigilant about when you're using the restroom, if your high school or the school that you're attending carries a certain reputation. Now, the second factor we want to talk about comes down to cafeterias. Yes, cafeterias have their own system. And one thing that is important to know, they obviously sell food. And for the first 2 weeks, I never bothered to go close to cafeterias. Why? Because when we came here, we were not even low income, we were even below that. And so I didn't have enough money to buy anything from school in compared to all those people who will line up and get their food. So I would usually just roll in with an apple for breakfast, and then with a sandwich that either I made or my mom made at home, and I just like carried on. But little by little, I found out that the cafeteria has its own system. First of all, if you're a student in need of a little bit of cash, and especially if you're like a low-income student, you can apply and work in cafeteria during the brunch and breakfast time. And that will give you an opportunity. Usually they will give you free food, and on top of that, you learn the system. And the third factor is that you make a little bit of cash. So you start making money and earn paychecks and all of those good things from a very young age. Now, the second factor is that these cafeterias, as I've mentioned a couple times by now, they have their own system. And usually they put you or the students in 3 categories based on how much their parents make. So someone like me who was low income or even below that, they are literally on the low income category. What that means is that when the kids go to the cafeteria and they're requesting food, nobody's gonna charge them anything. And all they have to show is their student ID. We're gonna get to a student ID next, so just bear with me. You just show your student ID on their system. They know everything, how much your parents make and all of that, and they have put you in that category of low income. So the breakfast you get, the juice you get, the lunch you get, even the salad or like these side things that you get, all comes down for free. Now, the second category is if your parents are making somewhat an average income, right? Then at that point, again, this all will be associated to your student, or if you're a student, to you, as soon as they scan their ID card. And it will bump up and be like, hey, you have to pay like 25 cents or like $1 out of the whole cost of the food. So maybe 1/2, maybe 1/10, maybe 1/20th, something very minimal, but they still have to pay in compared to those low-income students. Now, the third factor is if their parents make a significant amount of money, and then they have to pay the full price, no matter what they get, even if it's a juice, it's a salad, it's a pizza, whatever it is. And now, unfortunately, when I came here, there was this notion behind the cafeterias that the food is trash, people didn't like it. Always the one argument that has been brought up in class when the principal came and visit was like, the cafeteria food needs to be better. But I personally was so thankful that I'm getting something to eat for free that I never bothered to complain. So it really comes down to your perspective. In my opinion, I was thankful and it was something good to eat. So that's with the cafeteria. Now let's talk about these student IDs, because the student ID starts pretty much from your high school, which I don't know if you can see here. These are all my high school student ID, sophomore year, junior year, senior year, and then it goes to community college, and that should be somewhere be my Berkeley ID. Oh, right here, my Berkeley ID. So you start from high school with these IDs and it goes all the way to university and even graduate school. So it's important to talk about them. Now, obviously, student ID, usually about a week or 4 days, let's say a couple days before the class starts or the school officially starts, you will receive these letters way prior to that you have to attend school. And all they do is that you're gonna sit on the chair, they're gonna take a picture of you, they have some professionals coming out with like backgrounds, lighting and everything, and that'll be your student ID photo. Now at that very specific day, you have the opportunity, and that's only in high school, it doesn't happen in community college or universities. On that very particular day, you have the ability to purchase certain privileges that comes with your ID. I remember with my high school was ASP, was basically a package that you could purchase. Now the ASP comes with like certain privileges, as I've mentioned, like for example you will get the yearbook for free, as well as I believe like you will get certain discounts when it comes to dances and other occasions that the high school will put together. That's that. Then you had the gold package, which even came with more advantages, which I never was able to afford. And the only reason I got an ASP package or found out about it was towards the end of the high school when I was a senior, because I wanted to get the yearbook at least once out of all the years that I attended high school. Again, not having the money was one of the factors that I've never aimed for these packages and receiving all these privileges. But of course they come and they're option available. Basically your parents can aim for them. And they're usually reasonably priced. Now that aside, what can you do with your student's ID? One of the factors is that you can borrow books from library. And library comes into two sections usually when it gets to high schools. One section is like any libraries. You just go in, there are computers, there are bookshelves, and you can basically borrow books, whatever it is that you like, fiction, non-fiction, whatever. And then there's another section of the library which literally has its own window and everything. And on that section, you can only borrow or receive or return your textbooks. And why do I say that receive or return? Because they are often open at a very specific time, which is in the beginning of the semester, for you to go with all of your class and your teacher present and get your textbooks, or go towards the end of the semester or your class year and return your textbooks. Alright, versus the other part of the library, which is I should say a regular library. It acts like a normal library. It is open at all time, and it's going to be busy, of course, during the breaks, and you can just walk in, borrow the books that you like, and that's about it. So borrowing books, borrowing textbooks, which is a must, you need to have it. And then it comes with other advantages, with like getting lunch or being able to purchase something from cafeteria. You need to have your student ID. And then you want to use the computers in those libraries, or you want to use the computers in the labs, you also want to have your ID in hand. So usually your ID is something that you need to have it. I'm just looking at other factors that potentially might be in my list and I'm missing, and it's nothing. So your student ID is very important. Thank you very much for staying with me towards the end. And I know this is a longer video. All of this series is getting longer because I just want to go deeply into every factor that I talk about, because nobody told me all of those things in detail, and I wish you guys will be at advantage by listening to these tips. Thank you again for listening to me, and hope you have a great day or night whenever you're watching this. Until the next video.